As this chaos was erupting on the island, Colon was still out on a separate mission. He finally returned to the island on the 19th or 20th of August of 1498. His brother Bartolome Colon quickly informed him of what was going on. But Colon decided not to use force with Roldan because he reasoned Roldan had hundreds of men, while he only had about 40 people in quien confiaste. So on September 12th, he decided to send out pregoneros, which were people who were basically the first public service announcers who would go out and make announcements to the different towns and villages. His message was, to los Roldanistas, surrender. You will not be punished. I will give you ships for anybody who wants to return to Spain with no consequences. But this strategy failed miserably because these men had begun to establish themselves in Jaragua. And Bartolomé says que tenían mujeres preñadas o paridas. So they had families now. By the end of 1498 and the rest of 1499, Colon decided on how to negotiate with Roldan. He didn't see any other choice. In the end, we can discover through this interaction that Colon was a horrible governor. He basically gave in to all of Roldan's demand. He was very complacent and generous with Roldan. He gave him full jurisdiction. Of his 3 boats, he gave 2 to Roldan. By Roldan's request, he put in writing that he would not punish any of the Roldanistas. He also renamed as mayor of La Isabela. He gave him land, he gave him indigenous people to work for him, and he gave him a salary. So by the fall of 1499, everything was signed. However, Colon managed to get one thing out of Roldan. He managed to get him to agree to disperse his people. So they were distributed among the following places: Bonao, La Vega Real, Santiago, and they could choose to stay in Jaragua as well. Those who stayed in Jaragua realized the importance of political alliances with the caciques. So many of them married caciques' daughters, in effect, making them white caciques. Colon no sabía negarle nada a Roldan. He was given lands and estates near La Isabela, and he states, porque dijo que antes que se levantasen, eran suyas. He also managed to get another estate called La Esperanza that originally was for the king. Colon, though, was extremely angry that he had to make all these concessions for Roldan. So in 1499, October 1499, he wrote a letter to the kings telling them what Roldan did. Roldan seemed to smell something fishy going on because he also wrote a letter to the kings on the 10th of October, 1499. He sent it with El Cardenal Cisneros desde Santo Domingo. He gave his version of events, and he also justified his behavior. And in it, he described Bartolomé Colon as un hombre duro y áspero y cruel y codicioso, y que con él no podía alguno medriar. So finally, after making peace with Colon, was now back in the service of the Colon brothers. By this time, Ojeda, the one who had captured Caunabo, had now turned against Colon and his administration. So he went rogue. On the 5th of September of 1499, Colon heard that Ojeda and his men had arrived at port at Yaquimo in Jaragua. With his crew was a young man named Hernando de Guevara. Colon sent Roldan to confront Ojeda. He sent Roldan on the 29th of September of 1499. He decided to ambush him and arrived at night. Surprised, Ojeda quickly surrendered and gave an explanation as to why he was there. He explained that he was on a separate mission off the coast of Venezuela and had no intention of going against Colon. They even showed Roldan a map confirming where they had been and that he had just stopped there to fix his ship. But what Roldan didn't know is that Ojeda already had some of his own rebels on his ship. So when Roldan ordered Ojeda to make his way to Santo Domingo for an audience with Colon, Ojeda did the opposite. Roldan was quickly informed that Ojeda was going in the opposite direction. He was not heading to Santo Domingo. So Roldan turned around his crew in order to attack Ojeda. He went back with full force, and in the fight, they both captured prisoners. They quickly tired out, and in order to basically stop the fight, they decided that the best thing to do was to return each other's prisoners. But lo and behold, Hernando de Guevara decided to stay with Roldan. He even fought alongside Roldan as he defeated Ojeda. Hernando de Guevara quickly decided to take advantage of his new alliance with Roldan and asked him for land and for a position. Roldan was more than happy to give land to this new ally. So he gave him some land that was very close to Cotuí, where his cousin, Adrian de Mojica, already had land. Legend says that as Fernando Hernando de Guevara walked towards his land, he passed by El Yucayeque de Anacaona. He was encouraged to stop in and meet Anacaona. And as he went towards her Yucayeque, he saw a young, beautiful girl right side of the cane. Legend says it was love at first sight. And instead of going to his lands near Cotuí, he stayed in Jaragua with Higuanamota. News ran fast, and Roldan heard that his new ally, Fernando de Guevara, had stayed and hadn't gone to the lands that he had given him. Instead, he had taken one of the women that he had claimed. Roldan ordered Guevara to leave, and Guevara decided to ignore it. So Bartolomé de las Casas writes, fue avisado Roldan, y como diligente y astutísimo, y bien proveído y prevínolos, y con buena manera que en ello tuvo, prendió luego a Hernando y 7 de los más principalmente culpables. Because Guevara didn't do this on his own. He not only stayed, but all the other rebels that had been given lands decided to stay there with them too. Roldan quickly wrote to Colón telling him what happened. And Colón told them, send them to me. I'll put them in La Fortaleza Osama.